It's day 2 of Queensland's Mental Health Week, and given that it is the second weekend of big sporting weekends in Australia, at least, last weekend was the AFL Grand Final, this weekend is the NRL Grand Final. I've spent all weekend also watching the team I manage have been playing their nationals in the competition, so I've been watching sports all weekend and just observing the kinds of pressure we put on ourselves in our own arenas, whether they're high performance sports or whatever our given arenas are, career, personal, relationships, whatever, the kinds of pressures we put on ourselves and at what point and how they become detrimental to our mental health and our mental well-being. So that also comes into play with the kinds of pressures that we put on other people. So if you look at the big sporting arenas and the kinds of criticism that can come out, so I'm going to talk in NRL references because I cannot talk in AFL references at all. But in NRL references, if someone fumbles a try, actually the perfect example is the grand final a few years ago when Ben Hunt, he dropped the ball and it led to the game-winning kick, I believe, if my memory serves me. And there was such a response because there's such heightened expectation and anticipation around events like these, and you could see on his face and you could see in his body language exactly what was, like, you could feel it. If you were paying attention and you were sober enough, you could feel it. You could feel that devastation and you could feel the impact almost viscerally hit you as a result of him not living up to the expectations of what he was on field to deliver. So in those sporting environments, when there's a big crowd, you might hear people booing, and you'll hear people cheering for sure. But what happens when we boo people, and why is it acceptable to boo people in a big sporting environment like that, but we wouldn't necessarily sit around like a table, like a boardroom table or anything, and just start booing? Because there's a face-to-face element of it, right? But also because we don't want to be mean. Generally, I'm speaking very generally, but there's the element of, well, I don't want them to feel bad. I don't want to be mean to someone. And if you are, then maybe you should look at that. But it's the element of, why is there such a pressure put on ourselves or on others in certain environments, and then why do we feel like it is okay to put that pressure on others? And again, I say we, I speak very generally, I can only speak generally at the moment, but why is it considered okay by some people to put that kind of pressure on others? Yes, there's money involved in those events, in those sports, great, cool, but at the expense of what? Like, when do we start to look at ourselves and each other as human beings who are just doing the best that we can do? And yes, some people thrive more under pressure and some people thrive in chaos, but at what point do we start to allow for the human being aspect of things and take care of that mental health and that mental well-being? Because I guarantee you, players like Ben Hunt, when that happened, he would not have felt at his highest for a little while. That might have been something that played on his mind for however long. Who really knows? Maybe he had people around him to help him process that in a healthy way. Maybe his coach and his coaches and his teammates were very kind and very supportive of him processing that, and very reassuring and everything like that. And look, I use this as an example because it's it's a key one that came up, but it could be anything, but maybe he had that and maybe he didn't. And at what point do we decide that we, athletes, or anyone with that goal, with that driven ambitiousness, because we all should have that to some degree about something, right? But at what point do we decide that it's okay to be gentle with ourselves if we make a mistake, if we mess up, if we drop the ball, literally, like there's a reason that saying exists. But like, at what point do we decide it's okay to find ways to be gentler to ourselves that isn't limiting us and isn't stopping us from achieving? It's not holding us back, but it actually helps us just process what's going on, so that when we move forward, because we inevitably will, we don't need to move forward with all the baggage. We don't need to move forward with the idea of trying to prove a point. We don't need to move forward with the chip on our shoulder, because whatever we're creating to put into the world, be it entertainment or something of physical, tangible value, or a service, or whatever it is, if we have those chips on our shoulders, and if like that changes our whole why and our whole intention. So at what point do we decide that we need to take care of ourselves in this, and that we need to maybe be a little less booing of others in that process as well? So this is a bit of a food for thought one, given the context of the weekend and given the fact that it's early in the week, and we're just getting started on having these conversations in this context, in this week, in this arena. So I definitely recommend looking at those areas in your own life that that relate to you, in the sense of where that pressure is too much, or where it's not useful pressure. Pressure can be useful and healthy, but where is it useful and where is it potentially detrimental to you and your own well-being, and how you even feel about achieving something when you do achieve it. And then looking at how you place that pressure, either consciously or unconsciously, on others around you, or on sports teams you're watching, or whatever your jam is, whatever your thing is, looking at what that kind of pressure and how you contribute to that, and how, if there is a more useful way, or if the way you are doing it is the most useful. And if that's the case, that's a great awareness to have as well, because then there's a power in being able to pinpoint what it is you can continue to do that is useful and healthy. So thank you for joining me. I will be back tomorrow with a video or a post, and we will continue the conversation. Tomorrow will be likely to be talking around the stigma of mental health in the workplace, because that is a big one as well, and it's a great opportunity to start the week off on a Monday with that really, really important conversation. So thanks for joining me. See you tomorrow.